Yeah, buddy. Woo! Good evening, good
Cool.
evening, good evening. What
Well,
is
that is easier
happening?
easier than I thought. I was trying to make it more complicated than it was. So
No, absolutely, absolutely. Looks like we got Dan rolling in. Hey, Dan, good evening. Dan, we are with Roof Rack Ranger. I think we'll probably just give folks a few minutes to tune in because, again, it's about 8 o'clock.
cool.
So, just kind of if you're taking a look at this whole interface, a couple things to bear in mind is over to your left, you see the title interview, you see edit topic. You should say there's a little button that says tell a bird. If you push that button, it'll send out a tweet. And then also over to your right, there are three columns. There's mentions, and there's questions. So typically when we get rolling, if people have any kinds of questions, we'll get things going. And folks, if you're just tuning in now, Jonah DePasquale here with the folks from Roof Rack Ranger, a very exciting app. I know many of you, I'd say, active folks out there. I don't want to necessarily say sports people, but roof racks are for many uses. I guess if we can go on the record, but my name is Jonah DePasquale, and I'm an avid social media person. Do a lot of different things. Been relatively new to Blab. I'm on Blab about 50 plus days. This is probably my fourth or fifth Blab, and very fortunate to touch base with the folks from Roof Rack Ranger. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know about you. I've come awfully close to running into that awkward branch or overpass or garage. I've had the fortune of being in the vehicle when that has happened. Just to share with you a really interesting story, you'll get a quick laugh out of that. We rode downtown Rochester in the parking garages. So a friend of mine who will remain anonymous parked this vehicle on the top of the parking garage. At the end of the evening, of course, after a few cocktails, anyway, we put our bikes on the top of the roof rack. Now, if you live in Rochester or you've ever been in a parking garage and you understand that the top level is open, and then once you start going down to the lower levels is where the problems begin. So, anyway, needless to say, it was a close call. The bike kind of got knocked askew off the rack, but well, if anything like Roof Rack Ranger would have been around, that is fantastic. Now, again, this particular blab is on the record. If you are watching it on replay, thank you so much. If you are watching it live, I am going to turn it over to none other than the man of the hour. Good evening.
How you doing, Jonah?
Excellent, excellent. Well, thanks for
Awesome.
joining us. Hey, thanks for joining us. The floor is all yours. Again,
Cool.
just give folks a little bit of bio about yourself. What prompted you to start, you and your brother to start Roof Rack Ranger, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So about two years ago, my brother came to me with an idea for a product. Actually, no, this is longer ago. This is about 10 years ago. He came to me with this idea of developing a hardware product
Okay.
that you'd put in your garage and in your car, and it would warn you when you returned from a bike trip, and it would notify you that you had gear on your roof. And
Okay.
he had some personal experience also with it. He actually rammed his bike into a carport. So his experience kind of is what prompted him to get into this whole thing. And at the time, I was doing hardware design, so we had this mindset that we were going to make a hardware product,
Okay.
And
Right.
this was probably like 2005, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I mean, phones weren't around, mobile phones weren't around, and smartphones weren't around.
No, are you serious? I thought they've been around forever.
Well, the smartphones weren't. So
Dumb phones. Get to it.
that's exactly, yeah, they're all dumb. So anyway, we kind of played around with the idea a little bit, but it came to be too expensive, and we actually found there was already a patent on the idea anyway, and so it kind of discouraged us. So we kind of knew we were on the right track for an idea, but we kind of abandoned it. We just didn't have the resources to develop it, and we were worried about somebody else owning it. So fast forward to 2 years ago, and I was kind of playing around with doing app development, and I had kind of revisited the idea, and I downloaded Xcode, which is Apple's development platform for making apps, and I started messing around with it and taught myself to program and that kind of thing, and
Nice.
and basically decided, hey, this is a really great platform for this idea. We could actually do everything we need to do. It's got GPS built into it. We've got, it sounds and notifications, and this thing is in your pocket all the time. And, chances are you bring it riding, whether it's in your glove box or it's on you, you've got it on you. So we just decided, let's just give it a try. And so we started messing around with some prototypes, and I started sending the prototypes over to Ryan to actually test out. And we drove around like crazy. I mean, we tested these algorithms that we use hundreds of hours. I mean, we spent so much time on this, probably about 6 months worth of just driving around and testing and so forth. Wow. And we got it right. So, I think we're really happy with the product. And, it's one of these apps that's kind of a niche app and nobody knows they need it. But
exactly. Yeah,
but people who do try it, they get it and they understand what it's for and they love it, but it's just hard getting the concept across to people. So
well, that's a great point. And I think a lot of times that ironically, when it comes to social media or camera filters or video apps, I mean, people usually don't think twice about downloading those things. But I can tell you that just myself, and I don't know about you, yourself and your brother included. Yep. I mean, I have a rack on my vehicle. I'm very hypersensitive. It's like, if you own a Volkswagen Beetle, you see everybody driving around with a Beetle, but getting to the point of owning a rack, it's weird. I always will pick out the vehicles in traffic that have racks, and it's interestingly enough also too, I kind of like, they're cyclists or they're paddlers or whatever. So now, again, the app itself right now, from what I understand, just doing a little bit of research, and I know we're going to get into a demo here in a few minutes, but the app currently is only native for Apple, so it's only available in the Apple Store.
That's right, yeah.
Again, I unfortunately am an Android user, sorry, but again, I just, it is what it is. Again, back to your point about what was my first smartphone. So, but anyway, I certainly can appreciate that. Now, again, there's a small fee for the app. Yep. Yeah.
I just saw that.
Yeah, Dan says he is an Android user, so you may want to talk about that. So yeah, I'll put the floor back to you. So yeah, Dan, I think we're going to address that here.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's been some demand. Obviously, I'm getting emails, and I get contacted periodically from people who have Android, and I don't want to leave them out in the cold. We started out with Apple just because, in general, it's a the App Store is more practical for indie developers in terms of revenue and actually making it a viable, business. And not that I'm not getting rich off this, obviously, but it just, for the hundreds of hours you put in, you just kind of want to break even at least. So,
right.
And I have the website and so forth. So now I have a developer who wants to do a conversion for me, and he's an Android and iOS developer, so he's very familiar with it. So, awesome. And he's actually offered to do the conversion for me. So now that we're happy with the product and it works well, I think it would be very realistic to do a conversion. So
awesome. And and as far as that conversion, I mean, what are you thinking as far as time frame? I mean, it's not like today, tomorrow, but I think it's a good point to know that. So if you're going to be launching that out on an Android platform,
right,
when we could roughly anticipate that?
Yeah, I'd say probably. The end of the year would probably be aggressive. I'm thinking hopefully I can get it out by the end of the year. So,
that's awesome. All right. Yeah. So, again, just a few people in the room at this particular moment, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean that people won't be able to watch this on replay or tune in. So, if you will, I see that you're all set up for a demo.
Yeah.
Again, I know just with the few folks that are out here, if you want to just run us through kind of a little bit of a a tutorial. We got Scripture Typers come into the room now.
Yeah, welcome guys.
Welcome them. Yeah, welcome Scripture Typer. Thanks for showing up and checking things out with the folks from Roof Rack Ranger. The timing actually is perfect. Free Bible memory website, the easy way to memorize Scripture. All right, there you go. That's all right. Well, you want to memorize Scripture, but the last thing you want to use is Scripture when your bike runs into the garage. So
there you go.
So. All right. Well, yeah. Go ahead. Let's take a look and see what you got.
So I've actually got it running here on a simulator. This is what I use to actually test the app, and obviously it's not always practical for me to drive around town when I make a change to the app. So I've actually got a simulator up here, and what I'm going to show you is just the concepts of the app and how it works. And it's a very simple to use app. Basically, you'll see there's a big on-off button here. It may be a little bit hard to see. Let me just kind of zoom in a little bit. Got it about as big as I can get it for a demo. That's okay. Anyway, so here's an on-off button. Over here on the right, we've got a help button. If you click help, it actually guides you through the whole app, how it works, and and so forth. But I'll just explain it here. Yeah. So the first thing is you'll turn the app on. It'll give you a notification saying that if you plan to close down the app right now, it recommends you turn up your volume and turn vibrate off.
Okay.
There's a little gear here, and this is how you set up the app. So you click the gear, you go to a map screen, and let me see. Let me turn on a light here so that the balancing works. Maybe this will help. Maybe a little bit hard to see. See if I can get this working here. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, that's okay. We can kind of see it, but yeah.
Yeah. So up at the top here, I've got a button that says "Find Me." This will actually locate where you are on the map. You'll see a pretty typical map that most apps have. You've got a hybrid and a satellite view. If you click hybrid, you get a little bit more detail on the map of where you are.
Wow, nice.
Now, the whole idea with the app is that you actually set it up with a home location, and then you set it up with your activity locations. So your home location is obvious. That's where you want to be warned whenever you return home.
Okay.
The activity location, that's where you actually like to go riding. Gotcha. So what you do with the map is kind of a one-time setup process. Is you set up these locations. So what I've done here is I've actually already dropped a pin here.
Oh, I gotcha. Nice.
And this represents my activity. This is actually where I like to go riding. This is just a simulation, so I put it on a road.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay.
Now over here, I've dropped another pin. This is a hazard pin. And a hazard pin is just any location where you basically always want to be warned.
Gotcha.
So it could be like the ATM or the bank overhead, or maybe a carport, or maybe at work. Maybe you bring your bike to work.
Gotcha. Yep.
And then finally, we got home. So home is just basically where you want to be warned. Okay.
Nice.
And the idea here in this demo is I'm going to have a virtual car kind of driving around, and it's going to drive to the activity location first.
Right.
And we're going to be running the app in the background, and you're going to see a notification come up saying that you've reached the activity location. And then the car is going to keep driving. It's going to enter a hazard location. We're going to get a warning, and then it's going to return home, and we'll get the biggest warning, which is the warning, you've got gear on your roof rack, don't pull into your garage warning. So one other thing I'd like to point out is that while you're doing the setup, you can just scroll around the map, and you can drop down as many activity pins as you want. There's a tutorial built into it, but you can drop down as many activities as you want. So if you've got typically with an activity, what you want to do is actually put it on like the entrance to a park, or maybe the place where you like to park your car when you go riding. Those types of locations. It's actually a pretty big radius. I think the radius on the location is about 500 meters, so it's it's pretty big.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
So you can even overlap them if you really want to. You can actually place them so that they overlap.
Sure.
But anyway, you don't have a limit on the number of activities or hazards or home locations. Sure. You have as many as you want. So with that in mind, you basically click done. You're set up and ready to go. It says if you want to actually run the app, just basically click the home button. So I'm going to do that. And now we're out of the app. And so this thing could be in your glove box. It could be in your center console, in your pocket, whatever. Gotcha. I'm going to start the driving. So it'll start driving toward the activity right now. This will take about a minute. I timed the demo before I started. So
sure.
As it's driving, one couple things I wanted to mention were that so the app is designed to really be really good on your battery. So the algorithms that we developed are really sophisticated. Basically what they do is they figure out if you're at home, it knows that it doesn't have to crank the GPS all the way up. It knows you're home. It does, you haven't left yet, and you don't have to have your battery draining like crazy.
Sure.
And then as you approach an activity location, the sensitivity keeps going up and up and up. So it's really sensitive once you get to your activity or to a hazard. And then once you're at your hazard, once you've reached an activity, it'll arm itself. And so that basically means that you don't have to touch it. You never have to touch the app. It's always configured and running in the background.
Nice.
And so once you reach your activity, it will, again, bring the battery power way down.
Gotcha.
As you can see, the activity was just detected. We got a little notification on the screen here. If you have your sound turned up on your phone, you would hear that also. And it just notifies you, hey, you've reached your activity, and it's armed. It's ready to go. Nice. So in a couple seconds here, we should see a hazard reported, and that'll be the driving to the hazard location. So like an ATM or something. There we go. We just got a warning on the top of the thing here. It says warning, hazard nearby. And that would actually it would actually sound a pretty loud alarm that you'd be able to hear even if the app was if the phone is in your glove box.
Okay.
And then about pretty soon here, we should see it reach home. And so once it reaches home, it sounds like a really loud alarm that will basically run for like a minute. So if you happen to miss it the first time, there it goes. Unfortunately, I had my headphones in, so you can't hear it. But it says, "Warning: Don't drive into your garage." Right. And so that's the whole idea. The idea is that you set it up once, and you never worry about it again. You don't have to worry about, once you get to your riding location, you have to enable it.
Sure.
So it's kind of idiot proof.
No, I do have a question for you. I see, obviously for the demo, you're using the earbuds, kind of as well as mine. It just works, for the best for acoustics. But for example, I have a pair of the LG Tones, or maybe like an earbud. Is I would imagine that works. Is it Bluetooth compatible? I would imagine.
Yes, you will. You'll hear it on your earbuds or on your Bluetooth. The one exception that we've had, I had one user contact me this week who had a Ford Sync, and he said that with a Ford Sync you have to set it up a certain way, and so I'm going to actually put that on the website, how to set it up with a Ford Sync. But for every other type of Bluetooth and every other type of headphone, it'll work fine.
So again, you're saying Bluetooth compatible. Obviously devices, whether they're the earbuds and again also with vehicles. Now, if I'm again, so I guess I don't want to overthink this, but I guess just my point in terms of it would be maybe like Google Maps, for example, if you're going somewhere, same concept. The app, the Roof Rack Ranger app works the same way, just in terms of where I got it. Okay.
Exactly.
So while you were talking, I did have a couple questions just to kind of reiterate. So again, the app itself, again, it sort of will curtail itself down and up depending on where you are in your commute or your drive. Obviously, as you get closer towards your destination, its sensitivity or awareness spikes up, so that this way, you're making sure you're avoiding, an overpass or branch or whatever. Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Now, my other question to you is, when you were at the activity, okay, now, I don't know, we'll use a bike ride, for example. If I'm going to go to, Tryon Park for a bike ride, I drive my car and I'm going to go for an hour and a half ride. I mean, now my point to you is it's, and again, I'm sort of asking this so you can kind of run me through this. So like, I'm using the app to get me to the destination. I go to the destination, to your point, it heightens at the arrival and then ramps down. I throw my phone in my pack and I ride. Now, what happens when I mean, I guess, like, run me through that part of the aspect of it.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
After the finish of the ride, and then back in my car.
Yep. Yeah. So the idea is, as soon as it detects the activity, it actually goes into really low power mode. Basically, so if you're out riding all afternoon, it's not sitting there, with the GPS cranked up. Sure. And the one exception would be that if your home happens to be almost right on top of the activity, that might be a kind of a corner case scenario, that it might have some trouble. The idea is I wanted to err on the side of always warning you rather than, not warning you. I think that was the critical part. But in general, I think we covered a lot of the cases where, you normally drain your battery like crazy. We've been really good to the battery. So I typically run it all the time when I'm, when I'm running my phone, whether or not I have bikes on the roof, and I just to test it. And I typically get a full day out of the battery. I just have an iPhone, 5S, and I get a full day of battery usage out of it. And I have activities all over the place.
Gotcha.
In Austin. So yeah.
So now again, I understand that it does have that awareness to kind of ramp itself down to conserve energy.
Yep.
And now as I say, like myself, for example, I'm running a lot of live stream apps. I'm using Periscope and Meerkat and Snapchat or let's ballpark it, and let's take that socialite customer. Again, is that going to be a concern? I mean, am I going to be, if I'm the guy that's like, I've used the Roof Rack Ranger app to get to my ride. I'm using I'm doing like 10 million Snapchats and I'm doing some Periscope. I mean, is that going to be an issue, or is it still going to kind of be mellow? Or
it shouldn't be an issue. I mean, the app is there's no interaction with other apps. So in general, I don't think you'll see much of an incremental change in usage, in battery usage. So yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't imagine it being an issue, because it sounds like it's smart enough so that it will ramp down so that you're not using that. Now again, as far as any other tips and pointers, I mean, obviously we're primarily focusing people that are active. They have an active lifestyle. They're putting they're putting stuff I guess on the top of their car. I mean, I don't want to err and say it's just bike stuff. I mean, they've for example, I'll use Thule. I mean, Thule's got fishing rod holders. They've got 2x4 and plywood holders. So
definitely,
we're looking at something that didn't necessarily have to be targeted towards the active lifestyle. How about are there any particular industrial uses yet that you guys have kind of ventured into, or is that on the horizon, or how's that going?
The biggest thing on the horizon right now has been to kind of open it up to sort of the social aspect, where if you actually report a hazard pin,
nice.
The latest feature that I'm working on will actually share that with other Roof Rack Ranger users. And
awesome.
So just for hazards, not your home, obviously, but if you find the ATM or the bank happens to be kind of a low clearance, and you can drop a hazard pin, it would share it with other users. So that's the biggest thing. And I don't have any industrial uses planned for it, but obviously, I have some kayaking customers who use it and they love it. And the camping type. Can't remember what you call them, but there's some campers that I know that use it. So.
Oh, absolutely, and I would have to imagine that that this would be a no-brainer with the mobile home and RV users. I can't imagine how many like total fails have
good point.
Generally pretty big, pretty big vehicles. They've got relatively large footprints. I mean, obviously having spent many years in the New England coast and up in Vermont, it's like. We did have a question. Looks like Dan
just saw that.
Did you see that? Yeah, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah,
Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. So the database will be the plan for it is that if you look at your map, I'll have the shared hazards displayed on the map. So the idea being that I'd like it to have you be able to actually adjust those for your own application. So, if you find that, this ATM doesn't bother me, you can actually remove that particular pin. Otherwise, you can just take advantage of the ones that are out there. So it will be a shared database. Yeah.
So Dan actually, Dan did bring up a good point. So, I don't know, I'll use like my Verse Bible app. Like I have like people that I share my scriptures that I highlight, and I'll create these little sayings, stuff like that. There's things that I'll share. Most of what I have out there, like if I make a note on some scripture, people are like, oh, that's great. Now, you're talking to me about like my daily routine. I like to
Yep.
ride. For those of you, I'm in Rochester. There's a couple of great places that I'll name. I like riding at Tryon or the number one rated park in New York State, Letchworth, for example. I
Oh
like
yeah.
to go there. Now it is, again, our other Roof Rack Ranger. Just to clarify, I guess for the
Yep.
audience there, our other users, they're going to, just for clarification, they're going to be able to see the hazards,
Yep.
not necessarily my travel patterns. I guess
Yeah.
I'm not very
Absolutely.
clear on that.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And yeah, I mean, privacy is very much at the top of everyone's list. The idea is that I think with the hazards is that they're generally public locations, and I think there's probably not so much worry about sharing that type of location. I would be a little bit concerned about sharing activities in homes, although I thought about activities. Maybe there are parks or riding areas that are very common, but I think that's maybe a little personal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the idea of having it warn you of hazards maybe you didn't think of, though, I think that there's some value with that. So
No,
yeah.
well, I agree, because I think it's the same concept of kind of a trail report. Like one of my good friends rode in, Ellicottville, for example, and
Yeah.
he'd put a note out that said, you know, tree down on blah 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 trail. So that's good
Oh
to
yeah.
know, because I mean, if you're planning to travel to that area to ride,
Yeah.
and maybe that's part of your route, you'd be like, oh well, I need to be aware of a tree down on XYZ trail.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now again, I've spent some time using another app called Strava, and
Hmm.
you won't necessarily get into Strava, but Strava's it's got a unique app in its own. You can track you track the mileage of your rides, and it obviously syncs with the GPS, stuff like that.
Yep.
It is an incredibly battery hogging application.
Mm.
I literally, when it first came out, I just couldn't get enough of it. But then when I realized not only how much data that it used, but how much power.
Okay.
So I guess getting to my point is sort of like two tiered. Is one of the aspects about Strava is, again, you could hide your activity. Again, I don't know whether I'm asking a question that really is relevant or not, but I guess, I don't know, to your point, I mean, you probably would want those hazards to be visible. I don't know why you'd want to why you'd want to hide them. So I
Okay.
guess it's sort of a ambiguous question. But the other part of that is too is, you did say that the app itself ramps down. So again, it does have a means of conserving data usage, I guess,
Yeah.
across the board from start to finish. So
Right.
for example, so to the point where, again, back to what you said, is when you do start out, it's ramping up just to get a scope of what's going on. Once you
Hmm.
get going, it chills out.
Yep.
Once you get back here, so in theory, it's definitely not as data, conducing as you say that, most of the other apps are. Like Strava is brutal, for example.
Right. Yeah. And the data use, there's actually no data usage right now. The location services that we use are just GPS and a combination of GPS and Wi-Fi, actually.
Okay.
And so it does, as far as data goes, though, once I add the new feature where it actually has hazard locations, there will be some data usage, and so I need to really be careful about that, and I'm aware of that.
Right.
Just in terms of battery usage alone, I think the data usage will contribute a little bit to that, and of course people's data plan as well. So there may be may be some knobs and dials that I'll add to the app that allow users to customize it.
Sure,
So
sure,
yeah.
sure. Which I mean, I guess, which makes sense. I think I guess as an end user, you would either want that or expect that, because I guess, to your point about, things being, relevant. I mean, they, topography, demographics, urban sprawl,
Yeah.
whatever, trail maintenance. I mean, things change. I mean,
Yeah.
and I know that with just traveling, from place to place, year to year, or you go in, you come back, you're like, oh, I remember, a trail going that way or whatever. So
Yeah.
I can see that being value add. I don't think that customers would be would be too concerned. Looks like Dan had another question. He said goodness gracious, a hazard database would be very useful when you travel. There you go, Dan.
Yeah,
you used the
that's
words right out of my mouth.
right on the money. Yeah.
That was a very good comment.
Yeah,
absolutely. And if you want to elaborate on Dan's point, that's a great comment.
I wasn't even really thinking about that. That really says a lot, though. I think that's awesome. Yeah, I think when you're traveling, it's interesting because I think the hope is that this database will grow over time and really become valuable to people in every state. And I'd love to find a really good way to prime it with some really good locations. And so, if I could find people who are really interested in it, in doing that, that would be great. So the other thing would be, that kind of comes into where, maybe even a shared activities might be an interesting point. Maybe you do want to find riding locations, and they're built into the app as activity locations. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there too, but yeah, I'd be concerned about privacy with the activities though.
One of the things that not necessarily to date myself, but years ago I can remember the TomTom or the Nuvve or the Garmin. The GPS that went into the lighter and was
sure.
incredibly cumbersome thing that you put on your dashboard. I can tell you that when I was working as a rep for Cannondale, I would do exactly what you just said. The locals would be like, all right, follow me to this rad ride stash, and we're going 100 miles down these boony back roads to these top secret epic stashes. Well, I was no dummy. I would take my GPS and drop a pin. No, I think that the same thing falls true with being able to build a database, which I think Dan brought up as a good point. And
that's a great point.
I could kind of see this, changing into a potential, tab, or user favorites, book where, again, people do like to, or do want to share, or will share their favorite locations. I mean, obviously, if it's a no-brainer, I'm using Rochester, New York. I mean, Tryon Park is not top secret. So I think to Dan's point is, if people come to Rochester and they want to know, and to your point, if they're a Roof Rack Ranger app user, that might not be a bad idea to have. To have a local favorites tab or feature where, like new in town, and you maybe click a button or whatever. And it would sync itself, that user to that area, so that, again, it would be, I would say just, another layer advantage, because I think you already have the information. It's not like you're going out and recreating the wheel. I just think it's, you're comparing apples to apples. I mean, if Bob lives Bob lives on the West Coast and Bob brings his bike to the East Coast, he's going to want to look for places to ride. And, the whole premise of this app, he's building a travel footprint around being able to utilize this app. So I think, therefore, that's a great idea. I think,
absolutely.
It definitely gets the, the man of the hour there. So that was
that's cool.
Good comment.
Great idea. Yeah.
And hey, by the way, I did want to point out, these folks that are in the room now, if you guys DM the folks from Roof Rack Ranger or myself, there are promo codes available.
That's right.
Again, that is a very limited value add. We are not doing that anywhere else but this evening. So again, if you do want to take advantage of that, of course, if you are an Apple user, again, Android users, we just got to kind of wait. So the good news is you guys can have mine. So, but I guess, again, it looks like we got some folks kind of simmering down. Let's
cool.
I'll turn it back to you. Want to wrap it up, and then we'll kind of call it an evening.
Yeah, definitely. So for the Android users, if you wouldn't mind shooting me an email, if you're interested, just shoot me an email at support@roofrackranger.com. Or you can, go to my Twitter at RoofRackRanger. Just contact me if you're interested in an Android version. I'd just kind of like to get an idea of the number of people who are out there who are interested. And then, as Jonah said, I have some promo codes. We're giving away $50 worth of promo codes. The app is $10 on the App Store, so it's I thought that we'd give away maybe 5 tonight, and we'll go from there. So yeah.
Absolutely. And right before I fire it down, I'm sending out a reminder tweet. I just put DM for free promo code on the message. And we'll follow this out. Just so you know, this did go on the record, so you do have this on replay. We'll be able to download it, and you certainly can distribute it as well, which is good. So it looks like we had a small crowd, but again, the beauty of live streaming is people can always go back and watch it at their convenience. Folks, I definitely appreciate everyone's time. Again, my name is Jonah DePasquale, and I'm very grateful for the folks from Roof Rack Ranger. This is a unique app that will make your life much easier and also save the valuable toys and equipment that you merchandise and stuff that you have on the top of your roof. Now remember, there is a limited promo code that is available. That's right. You can DM either myself or the folks from Roof Rack Ranger. They are on Twitter. They're on Facebook. Also, as I said, if you do want to share this out, that is fine. We do have a limited number, but we're definitely interested. And also, lastly, just to kind of dovetail on the Android users, if you are an Android user, please do them a favor and give them some feedback so that you can be able to give them some better insight to whether or not they would do that. Otherwise, as I said, thank you so much for tuning in. As I said, if you've not familiarized yourself with Roof Rack Ranger, please give them a follow. Check out their website. Also, my name is Jonah DePasquale. This is one of the many blabs that I do. Don't forget 2 labs that are coming up. We have a bike chat 101 this Thursday with Anela Grande and myself, where we talk about bike topics and everything else cycling related. We had a very fun beer blab chat last evening at Tuesdays 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, which was pretty fun. We did a first pour of the Stone Brewing Delicious IPA. Right, cue the beer. But the beauty of live streaming is we're able to provide information that you need, and I can certainly say thank you again to Roof Rack Ranger. What a great idea!
Thanks,
what
Jonah.
A great concept. And as I
Appreciate
said, if you've not had a chance to take a look at it, do that. It is available in the Apple Store right now. If you want to go ahead and kind of dig around and do that, and also too those folks that are using the Roof Rack Ranger app, please be sure to do that. Looks like I got my friend Tommy Crowder. Tommy Crowder, he's jumping in. The Harley boy, what's going on, Tommy Crowder? Good to see you. Tommy is another one of our Blab fans. So. Other than that, looks like we're going to cut it short. As I said, thank you so much. As I said, in the meantime, if there's anything else that I can do for you, don't hesitate. But guys, this is great. Tommy, we're tuning out, my friend. You're going to have to watch the replay. So other than that, this is Jonah DePasquale. I'm going to sign off. So you guys
thanks,
have a
everybody.
great night, and thanks so much. All right?
See ya.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.